Hello, everyone. You might be here because you are preparing to become an English language assistant in France or in any of the French territories. Well, here's a guide for all you English language assistants out there. Hopefully, by the end of this video, you'll feel more at ease. So, here are my main tips to any English language assistants going to France. 1. Be adaptable. 2. Promote your culture. 3. Speak English. 4. Keep it professional. Now let's look at the first point. Be adaptable. One thing that is always sure is that change is bound to be around the corner. Despite your best plans, despite having been prepared with your best lessons and your best content, something might just come up and change your plans. So how can you be adaptable? And with whom do you need to be adaptable? Be adaptable with the teachers with whom you work. Ensure that you adjust your methods and styles to blend in with their lessons. As for the students, you'll want to be adaptable as well. The students will keep you on your toes constantly. They might ask unexpected questions, and they may even show signs of disinterest. How would you react to students who seem to lose interest in your lesson? Are you able to keep their attention for several minutes and maybe adapt your lesson in a way that will get them excited about what they're learning? Point number 2, promote your culture. If not you, then who? Did you know many of your students will never have met a Jamaican or a Bahamian before you? So you need to make a good impression and promote your culture. Ensure that you speak about daily life in your country. Highlight things that are unique to your country. Ensure that you talk about these things because these will leave indelible marks on your students. They will remember these things for the rest of their lives. Show students videos, music, foods, and other aspects of your culture because maybe they have never been exposed to these things. Give deserving students tokens and souvenirs from your country. When I say deserving, I mean students who participate regularly and who strive to give their best in every session. But of course, this is at the discretion of the teachers with whom you work. Ensure that you have their permission to do so. Next tip, number 3, speak English. In fact, your students are counting on you to do so. So ensure that you use basic English in the majority of your interactions with students. Speak slowly enough for them to understand, but try not to sound condescending, like maybe Dora the Explorer. You want to ensure that your pace is just right so that they understand, but they don't feel as if you're mocking them. And of course, try not to let students know that you speak French or even that you speak it very well, because they may deliberately refuse to speak English with you, knowing that you speak French. This has happened to me on numerous occasions, and I've had to behave as if I don't speak a word of French. You'd be surprised at their reaction. They feel forced to speak English, and so they make the effort to do it. And last but not least, we have point number 4, keep it professional. Know your place. What do I mean by know your place? Well, you're a teacher to your students, not a friend, but that doesn't mean that you can't be friendly. Just ensure that every interaction with your student or your students is appropriate and is becoming of a teacher-student relationship. Another important point, be on time, be punctual, because in France, punctuality is of utmost importance. So strive to be at your classes maybe at least 5 minutes before they begin, so that you can show the French that you respect their time. Also, if you have any doubts, ask a teacher. because at times we're not so sure, and it's best to run it by someone who's an expert before going and doing something that you later regret. Now, are you ready to be an English language assistant? Not so fast. There's more. Let's take a look at a sample lesson. Now, this model of lesson that I'll be using is called a 5E lesson plan. And this is because it has 5 elements that start with E. So we have engagement, the first phase. That's basically how do you introduce the topic. The second phase is exploration. How do the students begin gathering knowledge about the topic? The third phase is explanation. How do you or the students clarify any doubts that may arise? Number 4, elaboration. How is the information reinforced? And this can be by the teacher or the students as well. And lastly, number 5, evaluation. How do the students demonstrate that they understand what they have learned? Note that this lesson plan or this model of a lesson is student-centered. So it seeks to have the student at the center of the lesson, actively learning, being the one responsible for their learning. You are just a guide in their learning experience, helping them to navigate the tricky areas whenever any sort of problems or doubts may arise. So here's a sample lesson. The topic, what will you do in the future? Can you guess what we're going to be working on? Of course, it's the future tense. And maybe you can add a bit of culture in there. After all, we are Jamaicans and Bahamians. So you could probably try to find some resource online talking about what Jamaican or Bahamian teens do after graduating. Of course, this is information that the students will be able to relate to because it would be about people, well, Jamaicans or Bahamians who are in their age group. You might have to ask some friends to record maybe a video or, some audio just to have some material if it's not already available. But, in any case, the students will cherish having that perspective, that unique perspective. And of course, some of the vocabulary that might arise: college, university, job, career, start a family, get married, move out. These are all things that we can anticipate the students will want to talk about. So let's look at the first phase, engagement. So you might want to play the song by Taurus Riley, I Will Stay With You. Of course, in the title alone, we see the use of the future tense. I won't play the actual song. If you'd like, you can always look it up on YouTube. And I'd recommend the version with lyrics so that the students can take some time to reflect on what the song is saying while enjoying, of course, the reggae music. If it's a case where you can find a song from a Bahamian singer for those Bahamians who might be listening, that would be great as well, as long as the majority of the song is sung in standard English, because remember, we're still trying to get them to learn English. Then we want to ask them what they think the song is about. So in the second phase, which is exploration, we're going to ask the students to write down the phrase that is repeated the most in the song. So in this case, we use the song I Will Stay With You. And that is the most repeated line in the song, I will stay with you. So whenever the students actually find that is the most repeated phrase in the song, they will brainstorm the meaning of the phrase. When they figure it out, have them translate it into French so that they can get a proper idea of what the song is about. Then have the students identify the tense of the verb in the phrase. You might want to give them a multiple choice scenario. However, you may get it across to them so that they understand. Because remember, you'll be using English, so you're gonna have to try to maybe gesture, write on the board, get them to indicate whether the verb is in the future tense or the action is a future action, an action in the present, or an action in the past. You can probably use arrows, timelines to indicate that. Then you'd want to ask the students to state which word in the phrase indicates the future tense. That's once they guess it's the future tense. And from there, they'll have to guess, the word will, which indicates the future in English. Of course, the lesson continues from there because the students will have to explain what they have just gathered, the information they have just gathered. You will always be there as a guide, to help them along in this learning process. So they'll talk about the types of ideas that they can express using the future tense. So have them brainstorm a bit. Some of them might say, what they're going to do later after school. Maybe they talk about graduation, their future jobs, careers, maybe even having children when they get older and accomplishing other goals in their lives. It could be anything. Just as long as it can relate to the topic, ensure that you have them brainstorm these ideas and maybe write them on the board. And if it's a virtual class, write it on the screen so that list it out so that their ideas are displayed in front of them. Then we have the elaboration phase. So we're basically elaborating to ensure that what they're learning is being reinforced. So I didn't attach a particular video, but I basically indicated show a video with English subtitles. And the topic of the video could focus on youths talking about their goals for the future. If you can find a video of youths from Jamaica or the Bahamas, that'd be even better. But ensure that they're using a level of English that's appropriate to the particular class that you're teaching. It shouldn't be too basic, it shouldn't be too complicated, it should be just right so that they understand, and still there might be a bit of challenge. Then you can ask them questions based on this video that you show them with subtitles. You could ask them, what did you see in the video? What are the people talking about? What will they do in the future? Now, these are general questions that would be good for the students who have challenges and who don't feel so confident with the language. That way they're able to give general responses that more than likely will be correct, and so that will boost their self-esteem. The more specific questions that would be specific to the video that you show the students could be reserved for the students who are evidently stronger in the language. So that way the lesson appeals to every student in the class. Then you could have the students discuss in groups the various ways used to talk about the future plans in the videos. So maybe in the videos they talk about, they use expressions such as will, won't, going to, gonna. You can allow the students to identify these expressions, and then you can give explanations as you go along. Of course, the subtitles will come in handy here for the students to be able to see what is being said. And for those students who participate, especially those who get the answers correct, you can try to give them some form of reward, again at the discretion of the leading teacher. Now lastly, we have the evaluation phase. Notice that throughout this entire lesson, the students have been taking the forefront in everything. They've been responsible for their learning. There's a lot of activity, so they're always engaged. Now in the evaluation, it won't be any different. They'll be required to create an audio-visual presentation entitled What I Will Do. And in that presentation, they'll indicate 5 activities that they intend to do in the future. And they can use online dictionaries to help them to say what they want to do in the future, what they will do. Because invariably, they will not know exactly how to, the expressions or maybe how to put the words together. So they're free to use the resources that are available to them, so long as it's not, a Google Translate or something like that, which doesn't require any effort on their part. They must also use the vocabulary that they would have just learned to talk about future actions, such as will, going to, gonna, and so on. After each presentation, maybe you might decide to make it a group presentation with 5 persons, and each person states what they will do. And of course, it would be 5 different things. That way you can get through, more participation in the class. So you have all students participating and all presentations being evaluated, right? Because you won't have time probably for 30 students, but you'll probably have time for 6 presentations for 6 groups of 5 students. So after each presentation, what you want to do is to highlight the useful vocabulary that the student should make a note of. Everybody will come with something that they have learned that will, be related to future goals and plans and so on. And of course, this information can serve to develop the vocabulary of the other students. So in this way, the students are teaching each other. So the student remains at the center of the learning process. So there you have it. That's an example of a 5E lesson plan that you could implement when you get to France or a French territory and when you become an English language assistant. Maintenant, vous êtes prêt. Now you're ready to become an English language assistant in France. Merci beaucoup et bonne chance!